Hello, my friends. I am so excited to be here with you. We have a very, very, very exciting show today. And wait till well, let's just say that I'm going to be showing this picture of my grandmother, and I'm going to be talking about it in relation to what our guest is going to share with us. So I'm going to go here and make sure that all my friends on Instagram can see it as well, which they can now. And there we go. So let me first start by welcoming Chef Val to the stage, to our studio. And Chef Val is a very accomplished chef, and she has some very deep knowledge about things that you won't necessarily find at CVS. Let's just say that. And I am really, really eager to dig into what she is going to share with us. So would you say hello and tell people a little bit about your work?
Well, hello, and thank you, Ellen, for having me here. This is going to be fun. I am Chef Valerie Wilson, and my business name is Macro Val, so that's my website. I have been self-employed in business since 1997. I've been teaching healthy, vegan, whole food cooking classes, and they're based in macrobiotic principles. I personally have been in the food industry since 1985. My
Wow.
first job was at a deli, and within a year, I was managing the delicatessen. And then I managed a French restaurant and bakery. And my mom likes to tell the story of like when I was 9 years old, is when I was in the kitchen and I wanted to make something, and she wasn't home. And I called her. She said, "Wait till I get home," because she didn't have an ingredient. By the time she got home, I had already substituted something else and finished the recipe. So I've been literally
at 9
cooking
years at 9 years old.
at 9 years old. So I've been
Yeah.
cooking since I was a little girl. I absolutely love cooking. I'm in the kitchen all the time. I still am creating new recipes. Even after teaching for 27 years, I still go in the kitchen with a blank piece of paper and just create, create, create. I teach cooking classes every single month. And right now I have it set up with one in person, and it's a lot of fun. The in-person classes, people come to my house and we all make the food together. And then I have one virtual, and a lot of people now are getting the ingredients ahead of time, and they're in their home virtually and I'm in my home, and they're cooking along with me, which is so much fun because I get so excited, at the end of the class when they go, "Look, I made it. Here it is." And I'm like, "Awesome. That is fantastic." Absolutely.
Can you tell us, are there certain specialties that you're teaching when you teach your cooking classes?
In 27 years, I've done a lot of specialty classes. I've taught classes on how to overcome cancer, foods that'll help with arthritis. I did a whole series on weight loss. One of my favorite things to do is to teach the healthy recipes for holidays. So years and years and years, I've taught classes, Easter dishes. There's Christmas and Thanksgiving, of course, but I do 4th of July dishes. I do Labor Day dishes, Memorial Day dishes. In fact, that became year-round healthy holiday cookbooks, one of my 6 cookbooks.
Cool.
This might be one of my favorites because this has some of my best recipes in it.
Can you show it one more time?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So year-round healthy holiday dishes, plant-based recipes. And these are all your recipes.
Yes. I go in the kitchen with a blank piece of paper and create. That's what I do. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Actually, you know what you're reminding me of? I was messaging with Raw Food Romance, Melissa Maris, and she and I both, we did a live a few days ago, and in preparation for it, we both soaked some oat groats, and we were talking about what we're going to do with it when they eventually are, come to fruition and we can eat them. And so I wrote to her last night and I said, it was odd. My oat groats did not sprout, but they smelled okay. And I tasted them and they tasted delicious. They were like a soft oat. groat. That's what they were. And I said to her, I wonder if I could make pancakes with them. And she said, absolutely. So I started like poking through, just imagining and creating in my head. And I came up with a recipe for sprouted oat groat pancakes that I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get inspired too by recipes that I remember as a kid. And so when I was a kid, my favorite was my mom's homemade macaroni and cheese. I had a love affair with cheese. I ate cheese every day of my life. Every day of my life when I was a kid. So fast forward, when I became vegan, Whole Foods and everything, I created my version, which I call macaroni and mochi. Mochi is a traditional Japanese ingredient that's made from sweet brown rice that's pounded. It's one of my favorite foods, mochi. But anyways, I created this mochi, quote unquote, cheese sauce because mom made macaroni and cheese from scratch, with the, traditionally it was milk and butter and cheese. She made the white sauce and she poured it on pasta. It was no packaged stuff. That's not even food. Right. But anyways, I made my version of macaroni and mochi. I made it probably 25 years ago. It's still my favorite recipe. In the wintertime, because it's a nice warming dish, I make it every single week. And so I love taking the ones that I remember as a childhood and then changing the ingredients, making them healthy, and then eating them on a regular basis.
Cool. There might be some people, myself included, who might be a little confused because the only time that I've really even seen mochi is in Trader Joe's in the freezer section. They have mochi ice cream or mochi. I don't know what it is, but what's the difference between that and the mochi that you use to make your mac and cheese?
Yeah. So I know it gets confusing when they put the name of something on two different things. And what you're talking about is very unhealthy. Don't ever eat it. Yuck. That's a dessert. Mochi, again, it's made from sweet brown rice and they don't add anything to make it sweet. It's just a variety of brown rice. It's called sweet brown rice. And they traditionally steam it. And then this was their New Year's celebration where they would have mochi and they would put the cooked sweet brown rice in a big like wooden bowl. And it was the grandmother and grandfather's job to make it. And the grandfather would have a big wooden mallet and he would go like this and he would pound it. And the grandmother would turn the bowl and he would pound and she would turn. And what happens is that brown rice, after you pound it, becomes sticky and gooey. And they would actually just take pieces out of there and just eat it. Or sometimes they would roll it in nuts, it's a savory dish. What you're talking about is a dessert. No good whatsoever. So this is the traditional mochi. And a few years back, in fact, I got asked this question when I was on Kathy Hester's show. Someone asked me, they asked me about Amazaki, but there used to be a company that made mochi and made Amazaki. They went out of business. And since then, I've been making mochi myself at home from scratch. Mm-hmm. And I don't pound it. I put it in a KitchenAid mixer and I just let it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And remind us one more time, what's the origin of it? What kind of rice do you use? Sweet
brown rice. And sweet brown rice is what starts Amazaki. Amazaki is this beautiful fermented, thick, malted, sweet drink. And if they continue to ferment it, it goes on to become sake, which is the alcoholic beverage. Right. And that's all made from sweet brown rice.
Wow. And can you purchase sweet brown rice in a traditional grocery store or more like an Asian grocery store?
You're not going to find it. The Asian stores are not really, they have some, but they're not really traditional Asian. Like if I go into an Asian store, sometimes I go in there because I'm looking for maybe burdock root, but I'll pick up a tube of miso in an Asian store and there's sugar in it.
Wow.
I'm like, what? I pick up like umeboshi plums and there's high fructose corn syrup in it. And I'm like so shocked because I get the traditional stuff. So of course I buy huge bags. I think they're 25 pounds of sweet brown rice off of Amazon. So I look for organic Lundberg sweet brown rice.
And they sell it in that large of a portion?
Yes.
And
Yep.
what do you do with it so that you don't so that it stays fresh or doesn't have bugs or anything like that?
Well, in the wintertime, I'm making mochi a lot. So I do
Mhm.
use it up. But the rest of it, I put like in Ziploc bags and I put it in my refrigerator.
In the fridge, not the freezer.
I don't have room in my freezers. I have 3 refrigerators and 3 freezers, and the freezers are full all the time.
Okay, that is very cool. Okay, wait. So you said that you make it all the time. So you make it and you eat it in what form?
Well, I make it in large batches and then I portion it out and I put it in the freezer. And in the wintertime, you have to remember mochi that I'm talking about, the tradition, it's a warming food. So it's more apt to the wintertime. I don't necessarily make it in the summer, although
Mhm.
I'll have it occasionally. But you melt it. And so remember I told you the texture was gooey. And
Mhm.
what is cheese? Cheese is gooey.
Gooey. When it
So
melts, it's gooey.
I put it in a pot and you can melt it and you can add seasonings. I use the traditional fermented tamari, which is a salty condiment, but that really helps because I know some people don't eat salt and there could be salt substitutes, but cheese is salty. So if you're trying to do a cheese imitation, I use the tamari and that really helps. And
Mhm.
that creates the ooey gooey cheesy sauce.
Cool.
Now,
And if people want to learn from you this what you're telling us, how to make this mochi, it's not in the book that's in the ebook, is it? No. So where can they learn from you?
well, they have to go to my website, macroval.com, and sign up for my newsletter. And then they'll know about all my upcoming classes. I have taught how to make mochi from scratch in the past. But and if I have people asking me, I will
Mhm.
teach it again because I have some regular students who come to all of my cooking classes.
Mhm.
So I always am creating new recipes because they want like new recipes, right? But I will teach the old recipes, if people ask me. Now I do have a video on how to make the mochi, and that's in my Patreon. I don't know if you're familiar with Patreon,
I
but
am. Mhm.
it's like kind of like YouTube, only it's a subscription channel.
It's
And
wonderful. Yeah.
for a very small fee. It's a monthly fee. It's not that much at all, but you get access to exclusive cooking videos and it's a 3-part video how to make mochi because it's very there. I mean, once you learn how to do it, it's easy, but there are techniques that I teach to make the sweet
Mhm.
brown rice, soft and chewy.
Mhm.
And so it's a Patreon group. And again, on my website, there's, go to Val's Patreon, go to Val's YouTube, go to Val's radio show. It's all on my
Cool.
homepage, you
Okay,
know.
that is great. And where are you, by the way, where do you live?
I live in the beautiful state of Michigan. I adore and love Michigan. I was born here. I'm the 3rd generation born here. And I just love my state. And in particular, I love the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which
Mhm.
is just miles and miles of woods and forest. And it's just
Mhm.
beautiful and peaceful up there.
Lovely. That is great. I think I've been to Ann Arbor.
Okay.
That's the one place in Michigan that I've been, and one of my interviews was with Vicky Brett
She's in
Scott.
Ann Arbor. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and she's in Ann Arbor too. So, and I'm coming to you actually from Gloucester, which is, I don't know that, oh, yeah, if I switched I don't know if I can do that here on this platform, but right there, I'm looking at the Ipswich Bay, which empties out into the Atlantic Ocean. And we just love being here. It's a small little island called Cape Ann. And there are two major towns on Cape Ann. Rockport is one of them. It's a vacation destination, and Gloucester, which is where we live. And it's about 50 minutes north of Boston. So I always tell people it's Boston. Or it's near Boston. So before we continue, I want to make sure that people who are watching know that the reason that you and I even came together and got to, have this wonderful opportunity is because of the bundle. If you've seen that bandied about and talked about on different uh, in, Instagram channels or YouTube or wherever. The bundle is basically a collection. It's another word for collection of 150 ebooks that range in topics from, there's cookbooks, there's over 2,000 recipes in all the different cookbooks, and there's exercise programs, and there are interviews with doctors, and there are full PDF books. There's so much content, and it was created to be available from March 1st to March 10th. And it's March 9th right now. So, right. So as tomorrow, March 10th at 11:59 Pacific time, it will be no more, which is, so that's too bad, because you really want to have this amazing bundle or collection of ebooks. So I'm going to show you, this is mine. 20 delicious Rise and Shine morning oatmeal recipes from Ellen's Healthy Kitchen. And we'll talk a little bit about the oatmeal, but you and I both, coincidentally, it wasn't even planned.
Yeah.
Both of us made the same recipe from this ebook. And your ebook in the bundle is called?
I have two things in the bundle. One of them is called Scrumptious Plant-Based Burgers and More, which is a cooking class I taught with, since we mentioned her, Vicki Brett Gock.
Yes, she told me about it, right.
And Sid Nodder. And last year I was inspired to do a cooking class with the talented people in the bundle, because I was in the bundle last year, and I wanted to do burgers, veggie burgers. And I was like, I want to create a burger with the flavor profile of a pasty, because that's if you come to Michigan or you go to the Upper Peninsula, pasties are really big. So that's what inspired it.
Wait, what's a pasty?
Everybody has asked me, what's a pasty? So it's a traditional English food. And so my mom's side of the family is from England. Okay. And so it's a handheld food, the traditional one, that the miners used to eat. And because they could take it with them, it had everything inside of it, handheld. They could go, down in the mines and stuff. So the outside is a crust, but it's not a yeasted crust. It's more like a pie crust type. And then the filling traditionally always had meat in it, but it has to have rutabaga. Especially if you're English, your pasty, if it doesn't have rutabaga, it's not a pasty. So
rutabaga is the same thing as turnip, or is it different?
They're different. They're in the same family. A turnip is white with purple on top. A rutabaga is more yellow with purple on top. And I would say, I think a rutabaga is a little more sweeter than a turnip, but they're both in the same family. They're both in the cabbage family. A rutabaga, I think, has a little more flavor than a turnip too. And so my pasty burger, the signature flavor is kind of rutabaga. It runs all through it. And in a traditional pasty, there's onions, and there's lots of onions. Oh, and by the way, there's lots of onions in a pasty. So you got to have the onion flavor in there, and then potatoes, which I've used the white sweet potatoes because I love the flavor of them. And so then I created, this is the pasty burger.
And it looks so good. And what's on top of it?
That is a white sauce, an onion white sauce, because pasties in the middle, they didn't have gravy. It was like a white sauce. And this is a gluten-free bun that I created. And that's all in the cooking class, the Scrumptious Plant-Based Burgers and More class. And then the three of us put together an ebook companion with that. So you get the cooking class and the book, and it has more veggie burgers. And we also did side dishes in that cookbook. So that one has my favorite veggie burger recipe that I've created. It's a smoky tempeh burger. I love that one. And it also has a millet sweet potato burger, which is very easy to make and absolutely delicious. And when I went live with Lisa Rice, she made the millet sweet potato burgers, and she really liked them.
Well, I have to tell you that I'm like more than excited to dig into the burger book, because we're big burger people, and I'm gluten-free because I have celiac. So I have to have gluten-free bread or buns. So I'm really eager to learn how to do that. So before we keep going, I feel like I could talk to you for a very long time. I want to just tell you what I told you before we even started today, which was that I'm really fascinated, especially with the other ebook that's in there, which is called
Healing with Food.
Healing with Food. I started going through that, and it brought me right back to my childhood. And I'm going to show you a picture of my grandmother and my mother and her siblings. I don't know if you can see. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
She's in the middle in the light, sort of very light gray dress. That's my grandmother Sadie. And when my grandmother Sadie lived with us when I was a child, and I hadn't thought about this in a really long time until I read your ebook. She came from Russia, and she immigrated here to this country. And so she had a lot of sort of the old ways, if you will. And when we were sick, when we had a sore throat, she would take, this is totally, I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly or not, but I just remember she would take a paper bag, like a grocery sack, and she would cut it and make it into like a collar almost. And she would maybe wrap it in something else, like a wet cloth. I don't know. And maybe something was in it. And then she would wrap it around our necks. And so when I read your Healing with Foods ebook about the poultices, that's when I remembered what my grandmother used to do. And I was hoping that you might be able to unlock the key, because I'd love to know what that was that she did, or at least have an idea.
Do you remember a smell associated with it? Because she probably had something inside of the paper bag. Do you remember a smell?
I don't. No.
Because
Yeah.
if you have a sore throat or congestion, I would suggest onion, raw onion. But I would think that you would remember that smell if
Right.
there was raw onion in it, because that's the anti-inflammatory. It breaks up the mucus. And so you can use raw onion like that. And that's so interesting to put it in a brown paper bag, because nowadays, and what I taught in the classes is to use like bandages or cheesecloth or something like that. So I was wondering that's really interesting. They used paper bags a long time ago. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask my three sisters if they can remember this, because I have a very strong memory of the brown paper bag. Like, imagine taking a grocery sack, that you might get from the market, and just cutting it up so that you cut like a kind of a collar, for lack of another word, around. And I know she did something with it. I just can't remember. But so when I read through your ebook, I just got so excited. I want to try that more, because like I had asthmatic bronchitis in January, and it lasted for a good 3 weeks. And it's now mid-March, and I'm still congested 2 months later. So as I was reading through your book, I thought, wow, I wonder if I tried one of the poultices. And then I thought, which one would I try? The onion one or the ginger one? So I'm asking you if you have, because a number of them really address congestion, correct?
Yeah. And the thing about the poultices use the actual food. Compresses, you cook the food in water, and then you have like a towel wring out and it's liquid. That's a compress. A poultice is the actual food. And you could do either one for your bronchi there. And it's interchangeable. You could do onion or you could do ginger. Both of them will help break up the mucus and hopefully bring it out of you. But when it breaks up and everything, you'll have discharge. You'll have more discharge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could be helpful. I have one of those, I don't know what it's called, but it's a bottle that I put a little salt in, and I put water in.
Neti pot.
I have an neti pot that I use too. And that really, really helps. So, well, I will look at the book more closely and decide whether to try the poultice or the compress, or maybe alternate. And before I start using, medications from CVS, like I mentioned.
No.
Yeah, I will try that. So, well, I wondered if you could speak and share just some more information about the poultices or the compresses. Compresses, is that the right word?
Compresses, yeah. So what I submitted are 3 classes with a companion book. And the first week is onions and garlic. The second week is aloe and comfrey. And the third week is ginger and turmeric. And by the way, turmeric is just my all-time favorite, fresh turmeric root. And I was on the Kathy Hester show, and I actually showed how I work with turmeric. And I made a turmeric,
excuse me.
Bless you. I made a turmeric poultice. And so turmeric is the strongest anti-inflammatory food on the planet. And turmeric and ginger are in the same family. Ginger is more pungent, so ginger is more heat. Turmeric is a little more bitter to the taste, but both of them have strong anti-inflammatory properties. So inflammation when it's in your body would be swelling or pain. So if you have swelling or pain, that's inflammation.
Mhm.
And so, like, this is one of my favorite stories, because in the classes, I also tell personal stories, because I've been using these things for years. You know, I've been studying them and using them. And even though I know they work, I'm always kind of surprised when they work so quickly and so wonderful and so fast. So this was many years ago. I had a sty in my eye, and I had never had a sty in my eye before. I think it was because it was Halloween time, and I had dressed up and I had used some old makeup around my eye, right? And so I had the
Wow.
little pimple, and
Yeah.
it was irritated. And I'm like, well, I know turmeric has anti-inflammatory properties, so let's try this. So, you know, I washed my face. My face was completely clean, and I used the turmeric. Now I use organic castor oil as a carrier agent for on my skin. I know some people don't like oil, and that's fine, but that's what I use because you have to have something that will adhere and stick to your skin. So I mixed fresh grated turmeric with a little bit of castor oil. I took a Q-tip. You don't put it in your eye. I put it around my eye. Walked out of my bathroom. 15 minutes later, I went in and looked at my eye, and that little white pimple was gone. It was gone, and
Amazing.
the irritating itchiness, gone. But I knew that the body had to heal itself. So I continued, you know, to make sure that there was turmeric on there for about 3 days. But because I wanted to make sure that it was gone, because even though in 15 minutes I had dramatic results, you know, there's stuff going on inside of your body, and you need to keep going with it.
Right.
You can't just do it once and think it's going to work. But it
Do you
cleared
remember
up.
if you grated the turmeric?
Yes.
And you grated it and mixed it with a little bit of the carrier oil, the castor
Yes.
oil. Okay. And then used that and you patted it underneath your eye.
Yeah, I put it like the sty was right underneath my eye. So I put it right underneath the
Love
eye, just right there.
Love it.
Now, of course, turmeric stains everything. So I
Yes.
did have orange underneath my eye, but who cares? It, you know, it fixed the sty. So I buy large quantities of turmeric now because I adore it and love it. So the technique that I've used now is first you got to take the skin off. You're going to use it because the skin is like paper.
Even if it's organic?
Even if it's organic. Because if I'm going to use that turmeric in a soup or something, it's fibrous. Like the skin is like paper, and you eat it and you'd be like, oh, I don't like that. So I just to use it, take the skin off. And I put a bunch of turmeric in my food processor, and I turn it on and I mince it up into small, small pieces. And then I put it in I usually use 1 tablespoon size because that's a good measurement. And I put it in those little cups, and I put it in my freezer.
What little cups do you use? Or like ice cube trays?
The dressing cups. You know how you get like dressing?
Oh, okay. So you save those dressing cups, or you buy them and you buy them?
I buy them. Yeah, but yeah. So then I have fresh grated turmeric in the freezer all the time.
That's brilliant. You know what? I have fresh turmeric, a bunch of it in my refrigerator, and it's still good. And so I will do the same thing. So all you do is put it in your food processor. You peel it first,
yes,
and then put it in your food processor, get it whirled around. And then yours is dark, though. It turns dark in the freezer.
Yeah. So I brought this to Kathy Hester's attention too, because we were talking about, I try and always get organic. But before the whole bundle thing went crazy, I was at the store and all I could find was conventional. Okay. So I did get conventional. And because I've worked with it for so long, I know this. The conventional one, once you grind it up in the food processor and you put it in containers and put it in the fridge, it turns a darker color. If you get the organic, grind it up, put it in containers and put it in the fridge, it's brighter orange. It retains the brighter orange color. And so, but once you put the darker one in your soup, it's still going to turn your whole soup yellow, right?
Right.
And I always advocate organic. But sometimes when I'm at the store and I need something and it's as important as turmeric, I do buy the conventional because I have to have it on hand all the time.
Right.
But then I was at the store just yesterday and I did find some organic. So I was excited about that too.
Cool. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think when you're eating it, is it important to add black pepper when you're using the turmeric?
We talked about that too. So I guess scientists have studied it and they think that adding black pepper will help. I don't eat black pepper. It's too spicy for me. I can't eat it. So I've been using fresh turmeric root for about 8 or 9 years. I've never added black pepper to it, and I get all the health benefits there is to it. So if you like black pepper and you want to use that combination, go ahead. If you don't want to use it, you're still going to get all the health benefits and all the flavor. I love the flavor of fresh turmeric. Yeah. So do you have to do that? No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
But sometimes the scientific study comes out and everybody goes, oh, let's jump on the bandwagon. You have to do this. You have to do this. And I'm also like, really? Like, they've been using turmeric since before recorded history. And in the Healing with Food class, I go into detail about the history of the food too. So do you think that the ancient ancestors in Egypt were like getting their turmeric and going, oh, wait a minute, I got to put black pepper with this before I eat it or before I use it? No, they weren't, I mean, it obviously is a good combination. If you want to go ahead and use it, go ahead. I have never put black pepper with my turmeric.
I think I read that supposedly, and this is probably the science piece of it, that it activates the curcumin in the turmeric.
Yeah.
But I like your attitude. It's not like an all or nothing. So if for somebody who can't do black pepper, okay, so just have the straight turmeric. I was watching way before the bundle, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I saw a story on Instagram from For Fork's Sake. That's the name of her Instagram profile. It's Rachel Brown. And she made a breakfast that now I have been making a lot. And I wish that I had known about it because I would have put it in this Rise and Shine oatmeal book. But it's basically raw oats and a lot of added things, goji berries and cacao nibs and turmeric. And she includes black pepper too, and just a bunch of other things. And I love it. And then I pour either soy milk or oat milk, whatever I happen to have. And it's like, now it's become my oatmeal of choice, except for this morning when my husband is not a huge fan of having raw oats, although he does love the overnight oats. I make them for him and he does love those, but I digress. The oatmeal that we had this morning, when I came home from the gym, he said he wanted the savory one. So I made the savory one, and you and I both made it.
Yes.
This morning.
So I had the pleasure of meeting Rachel for the bundle last year. I haven't been able to connect with her this year because, we're so busy. Yeah. But I have to tell you, every morning for breakfast, I have soup. So I do not have a sweet breakfast. I just don't. And in fact, my soup usually has rolled oats in it, though, but it's got vegetables. So when I saw your savory rolled oats, I was like, hey, this is right up my alley. So I did some substitutions, though. I do not like nutritional yeast. Just don't. I know there's so many vegans that love it. The few times I've tasted it, I've gone, whoa, yeah, just whatever, And so I put some carrot in it, like 1 tablespoon of grated carrot. I put 2 tablespoons of diced onion instead of the onion powder.
Oh, what a great idea. And wait, I'm going to stop you there because I'm thinking with the hat of somebody who might not be into cooking as much as you and I are, right? It's so much easier to open the jar of onion powder. So can you give us some clues on what you do to make it easy to grate the onion? Or you just take out the hand box grater and grate it?
No, I have grated carrot. I didn't grate the onion. The onion was diced. And
you diced the onion. Okay.
Yeah, I cook all the time. So besides teaching cooking classes, I have clients I cook for. So I usually have diced onion in my fridge, which this morning I happened to. Otherwise, I just would have pulled out an onion and just diced it. I usually don't grate my onion. I usually dice it. But
okay. Yeah, when you grate it, it's very messy. I know I grate it once a year when I make potato latkes for Hanukkah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never tried making the potato latkes. I've seen lots of,
Oh, yeah,
recipes and stuff, but
so good.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the carrots then. What did you do for the carrots?
A grated carrot, and again, I had grated carrot in my fridge.
You already had. Do you
poured
grate them ahead of time and just always have them grated in your fridge?
Yeah, because that way, like later today, I'm going to do a tofu quiche. I keep mentioning all these recipes that are not in the bundle. Sorry, but I just cook all the time, and I'm making a tofu quiche later, and I always put grated carrot in my tofu quiche. So I just happen to have some in the fridge. So this morning when I was, looking at your recipe, and I had minced kale. I always have minced kale in my fridge.
You mince it yourself?
Minced, yeah. So
you mince it in the food processor?
Yeah, so leafy greens are fantastic for us. Of course they are. But a long time ago, because I've been teaching for 27 years, all of my students were like, they're boring. They're boring. What can we do? What can we do? So I came up with this technique, been teaching it for years. Go to the store and buy your greens. Usually I do kale, but it could be collards or whatever. Take them home, wash them really good, put them in your food processor and mince them up. Put them in a container, put them in your fridge. So when you make oatmeal, put minced greens in it. Make a pot of soup, put minced greens in it. Do a brown rice stir fry, put minced greens in it. That way you don't have to take the leaf and cut up the whole leaf and put a ton in there. If it's minced, it's concentrated, and then if you have some left over, put it in the freezer, because then you always have minced greens in your freezer. I can't tell you how many times I do this dish with brown rice and grated sweet potato and lots of onion, and it calls for grated kale, and I can do that part of it and then pull the frozen grated kale out of my fridge and put that on there and then mix it all together. So I usually always have minced, grated. Again, I do kale most of the time, but other greens, you can do that too also.
I wonder, that sounds great. And I'm thinking about how I would freeze it. One of the things that I started doing is, for people who don't mind about using plastic, I tend to reuse them, but I take a freezer-sized half-gallon Ziploc bag, and I do this with other things like soup that I make, for example, but I would take that grated minced kale and I'd put it in there and I'd make sure the air was pressed out, zip it closed and put it in the freezer. And when it freezes flat like a piece of paper. And then you can stand it up if you want, or you can pile them one on top of the other, but it's flat like this. Is that something you might do, or do you have another trick?
Well, I just use containers like this and they stack on top of each other. Okay. I mean, in an ideal world, and if I was just by myself and everything, storing your food in glass is the best, right? But again, I cook for people and I can't be selling food in a glass container. So I do use these. These are BPA free plastic containers. So they're pretty darn good. This is, by the way, onion butter. Have you ever had onion butter?
No, but it looks delicious.
So I did this on the Chef AJ show, and this recipe is in the Healing with Food classes and booklet, because the healing properties of onion are fantastic. But some people don't like pungent raw onion. So I thought, this is the sweetest, most delicious way to have onions. You have to cook this for 2 hours.
Wow.
And it actually started with 2 diced onion, which the bowl for 2 diced onion was like this big, and it cooks down and it gets this. But it's so sweet. It's so delicious. The only thing that's in here is onions and water. And then you can spread it on toast. Sometimes I just eat a spoonful of it. And I was thinking, if you were sick, God forbid, and you don't like raw onion, you could eat this, because the flavor of this is great.
Val, I'm going to just be making every single thing out of your ebooks.
That's wonderful.
I'm a big fan. So, all right, before we, I want to make sure that we cover everything. So anybody who wants the bundle, please, I make please into 2 syllables. Please go to my link, which is scrolling across the bottom of the screen, but you can also go to my profile on Instagram, and you can go to Val's, which is just tell everybody what your Instagram name is. It's Chef
Val _ Macro Val.
I'm going to put it in the comments here just so that we have it. So Instagram is Chef Val _
Macroval.
Macroval. Okay.
I use my Facebook more than my Instagram. That's why I had to stop and think for
Okay.
a
Yeah.
moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
And
So,
on my website, macroval.com, right on the homepage, there's like a big thing, buy the bundle, so.
all right. So here's how I'd like to sort of, we're like landing, right? We're in an airplane.
Yeah.
We're coming in for a landing. What I like to do with my guests is I like to pull a card from this box. This is, and I didn't tell you about it. So this is a surprise. So I hope I'm not like sabotaging you, but this is the box, Cheryl Richardson self-care cards. And
I think I have her angel cards.
okay. I'm going to sort of semi mix them. And then I'm going to pull one for you, if that's okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to read it to you. And then I would like to ask you if you can connect what's on the card with your work and your passion and what we want to learn from you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this one says rest.
Uh-oh.
And the back of it says, rest and relax, release guilt, and make your needs a top priority. I already know how I would connect it to your work, but if you want to give it a try.
Well, the picture on there is absolutely beautiful and it's pink. So how could it be like more appropriate?
Right.
So I'm self-employed and I'm single. And so I have to pay the bills. So I literally work all the time. This week with the bundle, I'm averaging 4 hours of sleep at night.
Yeah.
And so I know I need rest, but I'm really good at rest though too, because like before the bundle started, I took a day trip and I drove up to the Upper Peninsula, Michigan to see Tequamaneau Falls. And I spent the day hiking around in the woods. And we also got to see frozen Lake Superior. My brother went with me. And to me, that was just peaceful. And to be out in the woods, it was so calming. And it was just a day that I really needed. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking when the bundle's over with, I need another day trip to go out in the woods and be peaceful. And that's how I rest,
So yeah, the importance of rest, and we as health coaches, as people who help people with their health, that we know that rest is one of the most important criteria. It's not just about the right food, but you also have to have a mix. You have to have the right food and you have to have the right amount of sleep. And so, yeah, we want to really emphasize that. And I will say, it says to rest and release, rest and relax, release guilt, and make your needs a top priority. And I think that when it comes to the work that you do and that I do as health coaches and chefs, I think it's important for us to, I mean, there are a million connections I can make, but I think the connection I want to make is that when I go out to eat, I advocate for myself, and I do not allow myself to be worried about what my dinner companions might think, or what the wait staff might think, or what the chef might think. I just make my needs known. And to me, I make my health needs a top priority. And I've been doing this long enough to know that I'm going to annoy people. There are going to be people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe she asked for that. But I do it, So as an example, when I go to a restaurant and if I forget to bring my own balsamic vinegar or my own dressing, I will order whatever I'm ordering. And it's almost always a salad of some sort. And then I will say, would you please bring me a bowl, just a small little bowl, and a little bit of mustard. Could be Dijon, could be yellow. I don't care what it is. A little bit of balsamic vinegar and a little bit of honey and a spoon. And they look at me like I have 3 heads, but they do it. And then they bring it to me, usually way before the food comes out. And I just sit at the table and I make my own little dressing. And so that's an example of advocating for yourself and making your needs a top priority.
Absolutely. I usually don't go to restaurants because the food
hard.
there is not good. And I've never, even good vegan restaurants, I've never tasted food that's as delicious as mine. Right. But I have stories, like there is one restaurant, this was years ago, and I brought my own dressing in this little container, and when they put it on the table, I actually had a waitress come over and go, you can't bring outside food into the restaurant. And I'm like, hit it, but I still did it anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I do that too, because you're right. It's hard to find really good, fine food when you're dining out. It's very, very difficult. So anyway.
And I don't know if you know this quote from Wayne Dyer, but he said to be independent of the good opinion of other people. And so I just live my life and I eat my delicious food. And I can't tell you how many times I'm just, whatever. I always bring my own food. And some people actually come to me and they'll like apologize. I'm sorry, Val, that I'm eating chicken or whatever. And I turn to them and I go,
Eat what you want.
Eat what you want.
Right.
They think they're offending me. I'm like, you know what? I didn't even look at your plate. I don't even know what you're eating. I'm enjoying my delicious food right here. You can only be, who you are. And, like you said, you got to take care of your health. You're number one. And we know how incredibly wonderful we feel when we eat the healthy, whole, vegan food.
I feel like I have rebirthed. I've birthed a new me. I've been doing this now for almost 5 years, and I really feel like I am a new version. I'm the best version of myself as an adult, and I can't recommend it enough. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up, but before I do that, I'm gonna ask you if you would smile, because I'm gonna take a screenshot. Okay, Here we go. Great. And I want to mostly thank you for the privilege of your time here and for sharing your knowledge and your passion with us. And I, like I said earlier, can't wait to dig into both of your ebooks in the bundle. Everybody hurry up and go get it, because tomorrow at 11:59 Pacific time, it's gone bye-bye. And there's a time change, so we even have to deal with that. So just do it today. And you can find the link in either of our bios, Ellen's Healthy Kitchen on Instagram or Chef Val _Macro Val.
Yes.
And if you have any questions about anything, I know that both Val and myself are happy to answer them. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Val. I so appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and just hang around for a second. I'm going to end the stream.